And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Terrific program today. Call with your car questions at 888 Car Clinic. With us on the hotline is Debbie Hersman, President and CEO of the National Safety Council. Prior to joining the National Safety Council, Ms. Hersman served as chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board, where she focused on distracted driving, child passenger safety, and helping victims and their families. Ms. Hersman was an NTSB board member on scene for more than 20 major transportation incidents, chaired scores of NTSB hearings, forums, and events, and regularly testified before Congress. Debbie has agreed to join us today to help everyone, regardless of the car that you drive, the vehicle that you drive. You're going to want to hear what she has to say. Debbie, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Well, hi, Bobby. It's great to be with you.
Well, it's great to have you in the house. Share with our Car Clinic listeners and viewers how dangerous is winter driving.
You know, it's a really interesting phenomenon because there's fewer car crashes in the winter months, but the winter crashes tend to be more deadly. And so in 2015, we saw more than 8,000 people lose their lives between December and March. And so we're just starting into that risky time of year, and particularly for your listeners who are in rural communities, we know that there are always challenges with respect to emergency response and that golden hour when we have snowstorms and ice storms that's just exacerbated.
So then that's the particular reason that the National Safety Council is focusing on winter driving this year?
Well, we definitely want to make sure that people are going to be safe wherever they are, but, you know, that beautiful winter scene looks more idyllic when we're looking out of our window on Christmas morning than when we're looking out our windshield. And so we want to make sure that people know how to use the technology in their cars, what can benefit them, and how to make winter driving safer.
Well, that's great advice, and let's get into the nuts and bolts. What do drivers need to know about driving during the winter, and share with us any specific tips that come to mind?
So one of the things I would definitely tell folks is to slow down. I know drivers hear this a lot, but they frequently underestimate how long it's going to take for them to brake and how difficult it can be to steer on slippery roads. When it comes to your technology, you don't want to use cruise control when you're driving on contaminated surfaces with ice and snow. And remember that bridges and overpasses are going to freeze before the roadways. So in cold weather, be alert when approaching a bridge. Take your time and give yourself plenty of time to get to your destination. When we talk about safety technologies, there's a lot of sensors that can freeze or fog up or get covered up with snow or mud. So you want to make sure that they're clear so that they can work their best. Many people have backup cameras, and you know if that lens is obscured, you're not going to see anything. But think about all those other sensors that are on your vehicles today.
We're talking with Debbie Hersman, President and CEO of the National Safety Council. Debbie, how can our cars help us through the winter?
You know, the great news is we have some fantastic technologies in cars. Some of it's standard equipment and some of it's optional. So let's think about the two A's, the two T's, and an E. With the A's, it's adaptive headlights and anti-lock brakes. The T's are traction control and temperature warnings, and the E is electronic stability control. For many of your listeners, these features really are designed to help to prevent skidding on icy roads, to help you have control while you're braking, and help you see in low visibility conditions. Adaptive headlights are not standard. Anti-lock brakes are. They have been for many years. Traction control is not necessarily standard equipment, but again, that can really help you with those slip on icy surfaces. And the temperature warnings, this isn't a super high-tech feature, but just having a temperature probe that gives you the external air temperature, the outside air temperature, is going to help you as a human being have some warning when you know that you're reaching that critical threshold where the roads are going to start to get icy, where the rain and the sleet are going to start to freeze. And so you can take extra caution there. Electronic stability control, one of the best technologies to happen to our automotive fleet ever. 2012, this was required on all cars and light trucks, and so we know that thousands of lives are saved every year because of the presence of electronic stability control. Unfortunately, Americans are holding on to their cars longer. Average age of cars in the U.S. is over 11 years old. And so if this technology wasn't an option on the car that you had or wasn't standard until 2012, we know that we only have about 40% of the fleet that has electronic stability control today. This is an excellent feature, and when people are thinking about new cars, you want to look at these technologies.
Agreed, 100% great tips. And folks, the electronic stability control that Ms. Hersman just mentioned, it's important for you to understand that works automatically. And a lot of folks don't really understand, Debbie, that what their car does for them. So all the more reason for car owners and consumers to learn what their car has and how to use or how to let the car present itself in an emergency situation. And speaking of emergencies and our Car Connect listeners and viewers, why is the National Safety Council focusing on vehicle safety technologies?
We're focused on vehicle safety technologies because we believe that this presents one of the best opportunities to reduce or eliminate fatalities on our roadways. We unfortunately are in an unprecedented period. We've seen fatalities rise. Each of the last 2 years, in the first 6 months of this year, we lost over 19,000 people, and that was a 9% increase from the year prior. In 2015, we saw an increase overall of 8% from 2014, and so we're trending in the wrong direction when it comes to fatalities. We know there's a lot of distracted driving that's going on out there, but alcohol and speed are top killers. Technology can really help us, whether we're impaired, whether we're distracted, whether we're fatigued. If we have technology in our car that can help us prevent those collisions altogether, that's the direction that we want to go, regardless of who's behind the wheel.
Again, great advice. Thank you, Debbie. One last question. The My Car Does What campaign, would you give us an overview and share with our Car Connect listeners what that's about and what's next for the National Safety Council?
So unfortunately, we know that there are so many drivers who are startled or surprised. In fact, 40% of the people that we surveyed said their vehicles have behaved in a way that startled them. And so My Car Does What is something that probably people think often. What's that light? What's that noise? What's going on now? It's a website that's designed to be a one-stop shop. It's designed just for consumers to help them understand the technology in their vehicle. We know that when people understand what the technology is doing, it explains things like you mentioned, the electronic stability control. That is absolutely unseen. That system is working, and you don't have to do anything as a driver. It's just protecting you. But there's other systems that you actually have to actively use. And so it explains to you what some of those limitations of those systems are, as well as the benefits. But this website is designed for consumers. Our cars are getting ever more complicated. Some of them, it's like getting to a cockpit of an airplane when you get into the front seat of the car. There's a lot going on, and so we want to make sure that consumers understand it, that they're able to embrace these important safety technologies, and we'd really like to see them accelerated across the fleet. But any questions that people have, mycardoeswhat.org, we think you can get an answer there.
I think that's a fabulous idea. It's a fabulous website, and what you said I like best, Debbie, was one-stop shop. So regardless of what you drive, folks, go to mycardoeswhat.org so you'll know what your car does that just might save your life or someone else's life. Debbie, thank you so much. Debbie Hersman, President and CEO of the National Safety Council, for joining us on Bobby Likis Car Clinic today.
Thank you so much, Bobby. And don't forget, all of your listeners, you are your car's best safety feature, so always stay engaged.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Debbie. Nice to talk with you. Be safe and appreciate the job that you do.
Thank you, Bobby. Have a happy holidays.